Hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. This one's going to be a bit of a doozy. And as I always say on my other channel, The Modern Investor, if you have a tinfoil hat, you might want to put it on right now. Just because this is so I've been adding up all the pieces, so bear with me as we go through a lot of this. If you've been following this channel for, any more than a couple of months, you know one of my really big things that I always talk about is the amount of Bitcoin that's actually not available for the public anymore. This is a very big thing that we've been going over, and I've been trying to, I don't want to say the term warn, it sounds a bit intense, but I've been trying to make sure that people know exactly what's going on and about the amount of accumulation that's happening, not even behind the scenes anymore. You'll see the news. So we've had news over the course of multiple years that accumulation is happening. We know that it's happening from people, from institutions, from companies, and now from governments who are also mining, also collecting a lot of Bitcoin. We've gone over this before. The US government has more than $6 billion worth of Bitcoin. You get the generalized idea. We have a lot of companies who are also actively, publicly telling us how much Bitcoin that they have. This can range anywhere from the Grayscale to the MicroStrategy to other companies that we heard a number of years ago in 2018, 19, 20, 21 of like mom and pop shops who were also like, not joking, you can find the old articles. People had like pizza shops, and these people were like, yeah, we're allocating this X amount of money to buy 5 Bitcoin just in case for the future, like these kinds of things. I think a lot of times, talking too fast, I think a lot of times we hear that people are accumulating and we assume that the numbers that really matter are the 14,000, 38,000 Bitcoin. And it's like, no, if every company is accumulating 5 Bitcoin and you have 75,000 businesses over the course of a couple of states within the United States, of course, it's going to add up very, very fast. The amount of Bitcoin that isn't moving continues to move up as well. This is the amount of Bitcoin that's being accumulated by people, by institutions, you get it, who are simply accumulating and have no interest in selling. One of the really popular things within the cryptocurrency space is being the pizza guy. Nobody wants to be the pizza guy. The pizza guy, for those of you who don't know, was about 13 years ago at this point, ended up purchasing 2 pizzas, like literally just 2 pizzas. And I think he paid like 10,000 Bitcoin for them. The idea was he wanted to use Bitcoin as a normal currency. And, he now gave away billions of dollars. And I hope those were the most delicious pizzas on the entire planet. We've had news about unmovable supply before and exactly how illiquid Bitcoin is. That is to say, it is not as liquid as it could be. There's not a lot flowing through the entire system anymore. The numbers that we were getting around sometime last year, maybe the beginning of last year, were roughly around, I think 60 to 65% of Bitcoin supply was illiquid, just simply wasn't moving. That moved up to around 70%. We got a 77%. And one of the most recent news stories that we have received is that there's now 88% of Bitcoin supply is no longer liquid. Between institutions buying up, you buying up, your friends buying up, and nobody wanting to be the pizza guy, everyone is at some point anticipating Bitcoin's price to go over 100K, go higher than 100K. And this is why we've had those really crazy price predictions over the course of the last 3-4 months. For those of you who missed it, a number of analysts seem to believe, according to their charts, that they believe we are probably going to have anywhere between a $300,000 to a $600,000 Bitcoin by the end of this cycle. That is to say, the end of 2025. So to many people, the idea of selling your Bitcoin when the price is wherever it is now at the time of me making this video, comparative to the 600K that you could make, seems absolutely nonsensical. But when you get the news that 88% of Bitcoin supply is not moving, that more is being accumulated every single day by these companies and these institutions, it begins to get a little bit more real. The numbers that we've had before as far as what's on crypto exchanges, what's not on crypto exchanges has also skyrocketed as well. I have some of the numbers here. I'm just talking off the top of my head. I have all these numbers, not even looking at them. As far as the actual, what do you call it? supply that's being taken off of cryptocurrency exchanges, this also allows Bitcoin to become far more illiquid. The idea is if you put in a buy order and there's tons of Bitcoin on an exchange or exchanges, it's not going to really have an effect on the price the same exact way if people are taking off massive amounts of Bitcoin every single day and you click a buy order, or an institution does, for several $1 million, you'll see the price pop up. And this is where the entire tinfoil thing, the camera's really weird, it shuts off sometimes. This is where the entire tinfoil hat thing begins to really pop in. Because you might have noticed, I noticed, remember when the Bitcoin ETFs were first approved, for those of you who were looking at the charts, something very weird happened. We went from $45,000 to $46,000 to $49,000 like that. It was based off of normal buy orders from people in the background who saw that the news had been approved. Everyone went to a crypto exchange and began to buy some. But because there's so few Bitcoin on these cryptocurrency exchanges, that's when the prices popped up. But then immediately after, prices began to fall down. So I'm going to tell you exactly why I think all of this has been happening. Going to the actual numbers as far as the e-liquid supply, we now know that every month, around 71,000 Bitcoin on average is being taken off of cryptocurrency exchanges and usually being put into people's wallets, into cold storage, onto ledgers, you name it. It's simply leaving exchanges, and it's happening more and more. Of course, some days we'll have like 5,000 leave, others day we have 500, what have you, so on and so forth. The idea is that a huge amount of it is actually being taken off of these cryptocurrency exchanges. The other really weird part is the actual movement of the cryptocurrency market. And we talked about it in the last video, and we're going to be talking about it here as well, is that the apparent news, tinfoil hat, the apparent news is that Grayscale had to mathematically sell off shares and therefore Bitcoin of their Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, not their ETF, as customers were leaving their trust. But I found the timing of it to be a little peculiar, as the moment that the ETFs were approved, Bitcoin's price went down based off of, now once this is not me saying that there was any like malicious involvement in anything. It's more of a, I think the timing is a little bit suspicious, as far as everyone knew that Bitcoin's price was going to move up. Bitcoin's price moves up, and almost instantaneously, Bitcoin's price falls back down to 44,000, 43,000, 42,000, 41,000, and I think we got to a 40,300 and something or other, which really hit me kind of hard, because I was like, why would Bitcoin's price be going down upon the approval of 11 of these things? And wait till we get to the actual numbers. That's also going to be a really big thing where you're going to be like, well, Bitcoin's price shouldn't have moved down at all. Someone behind the scenes, golf clap. I mean, a legitimate golf clap, because they figured out how to perfectly manipulate the price of this market to make Bitcoin as cheap as possible for them to be able to accumulate while everyone else wasn't paying attention. Over the course of the last couple of days, a lot of Bitcoin has been accumulated. Not like a little lot, I mean like a lot of Bitcoin has been accumulated by institutions. The majority of people haven't sold, the long-term holders, but a lot of the people who just recently got into the market, once again, like clockwork, they've been flushed out. And this happens every single time that there's an expectation of Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency market to move higher. We get a rush of new people into the market. They move in, they buy up coins. Prices don't go exactly where they're expecting it to go. They end up selling off their coins, and these coins are then a week later accumulated by the institutions. You might have seen my video that I just made before. It wasn't even clickbait. Like, understand what I say is what I say. I'm not trying to be like, yeah, let me get people to watch the video. These people are doing this on purpose. We're not supposed to be part of the system. While Bitcoin is made for the public, for all 8 billion people, we are not supposed to be here anymore. This is now a rich man's game. They're talking about Bitcoin. Have you seen recently Cathie Wood, Mike Novogratz, Samson Mao, the one of the former heads of Blockstream, the current head of Blockstream, and there were 2 other people. Did you see their price predictions for where they think that Bitcoin's going to go over the next 4 to 5 years? Not 20 years, not 30 years, not in the year 2100. By the year 2029, 2029, they're expecting anywhere between a $700,000 to a $1.5 million Bitcoin. Now, riddle me this. If you are Grayscale, if you are Fidelity, if you are BlackRock, what makes it a lot better for you? Is it that you buy a Bitcoin at $57,000 after the hype of the ETFs coming out? You buying at $180,000 per Bitcoin? Or is it that as the market begins to collapse and prices fall down, that you buy at a $41,000 Bitcoin? Which one works for you? Especially if you're planning on or talking about Bitcoin going from $40,000, $41,000 to $700,000, $1.5 million. And for those of you who don't know, that's before the end of this decade. The price predictions for Bitcoin by the year 2032, if you haven't seen the Bitcoin, you can Google it. Type in like Bitcoin issuance rate, and they'll show you like a chart, like the amount of Bitcoin being made versus the issuance rate. By the time we get to this halving in 2024, the issuance rate begins to collapse. By the time we get to 2032, so therefore 3 halvings, so 2024, 28, 32, there's 0.7 Bitcoin being made, as opposed to the 25 Bitcoin, I believe 12 or 25 Bitcoin that we just had before the last halving of this one. I know I'm speaking confusingly, but I think you understand my English. The price predictions for 2040 sound absurd, but most people believe at that point Bitcoin would be between $30, $50 to $100 million per coin. I know it sounds odd. Believe me, I've said the numbers before to myself multiple times, but understand these are what the institutions are saying. If you have a projection, we know that the last Bitcoin will be mined in the year 2140. We have over 100 years to mine all the Bitcoin. Over the course of the next 5, 6, 7 years, Bitcoin's issuance rate hits rock bottom, and only like it literally, if you look at the chart, it can't go any lower because it's as low as it's going to go on the actual line. It literally can't go any lower. If we're having indications that all the Bitcoin is already drying up, will continue to dry up, and we know that these companies and institutions are buying more every single day, and they have price projections for a $10 million Bitcoin by the year 2040, it's probably very advantageous for them to buy an entire Bitcoin at $41,000 than it is at $150,000, $200,000, $345,000. The amount of Bitcoin being taken off of crypto exchanges every single month is roughly around $71,000. The entire news that we've been getting from Grayscale, and the timing is perfect, of Grayscale having to sell off their Bitcoin in accordance with people selling off the trusts and the shares and the yada, 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 also coincides absolutely perfectly to these institutions making sure that people would want to leave the market and or sell off their coin so that they could buy it, because they know that there's not a lot. We don't live in a world where there's like an abundance of Bitcoin. That's what people aren't getting. If you are talking about that there's not a lot of Bitcoin left, they know this as well. They know that the number is actually finite. If there were 900 million other Bitcoin, they'd be like, okay, cool, we have a lot longer to go. For those of you who don't know the numbers as well, it is believed that the numbers that we've gotten before that's actually left on cryptocurrency exchanges, of course, continues to fluctuate. But the most common numbers that we've had before from Sentiment, from all these other on-chain analytics companies, was roughly around 1.2 to 1.4 million Bitcoin. And the problem is that all that Bitcoin isn't actually liquid. So you'll say those numbers to people and they go, okay, we have a lot of time left, and they go, no, that's not how this actually works, because a lot of you, once again, out there have your coins on a cryptocurrency exchange. Many of you are like, you're keeping it there for safekeeping. So you might have it on across 3 different crypto exchanges. You might have it on 1 or 2 ledgers. You might have some on your computer. You have fragments of stuff everywhere as like a fail safe, just in case this exchange goes down, just in case it doesn't work. You can't get on this website. You still have some on your computer. You still have some on your ledgers as a backup. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. This is why they say these kinds of things. So the expectation is that you or your friend or your family members or these companies or any institutions or anyone else, any normal person who might have 14, 15, 16, 17 Bitcoin, a lot of Bitcoin, they're probably not planning on selling anytime soon. Nobody wants to be the pizza guy, especially if we continue to see that Bitcoin's price ends up going up. So how much of that Bitcoin is actually liquid? If you have 1.4 million Bitcoin on an exchange, And we can see the amount of Bitcoin that's being traded by day traders is in the billions of dollars, but this is also high frequency trading. They're trading huge amounts of Bitcoin at any given time. That's the only supply that's actually liquid. It's believed that this is maybe between 400, 500,000 and or 600,000 Bitcoin. 600,000 Bitcoin that's liquid, that's moving around, that's waiting to be sold, that's waiting to be purchased. For 8 billion people, as we currently only, it is estimated to have around 100 million people who are actually in the Bitcoin market. So here's where it gets interesting. So remember how I've been saying for like a long time and everyone's like, oh my gosh, stop talking about it. And I'm like, there's not a lot of Bitcoin left. Currently, before this halving, the amount of Bitcoin that's made per day, mathematically we know this, is 900 Bitcoin. 900 Bitcoin. This is going to become 450 during the halving. Cool, amazing. The problem right now is we can actively see just within the ETFs how much Bitcoin is being accumulated by these companies. So I saw this news like a day or two ago and I was going to make a video. I've been very busy. Apologies. There's a lot of stuff going on in life in general. I saw this news and I was like, whoa. So remember how I mentioned before, sorry for like being like really intense. Remember I mentioned before that Grayscale was definitely buying Bitcoin and people were like, no, we don't see it on any of their charts. They're definitely not buying. BlackRock is like, they're BlackRock. Of course they're buying, but they're buying behind the scenes, subsidiaries, other countries, companies, who knows exactly what they're doing. In their ETF alone, the news a couple days ago was that, once again, 900 Bitcoin is made per day. 900. BlackRock alone, in one fell swoop, purchased 13 days worth of Bitcoin. Imagine all the Bitcoin that comes out of a machine. Imagine you're standing in line to like get food that's coming out of a machine. I can picture it. Doesn't make a lot of sense. And there's one person at the front who has a bag and they stand there for 13 days. One company and 8 billion other people who were also standing there to get some of that sweet, sweet Bitcoin don't get a drop for 13 days. 13 days worth of Bitcoin was accumulated by BlackRock in one fell swoop. They accumulated 11,500 Bitcoin, just them. Now imagine the accumulation by Fidelity, by Coinbase. For those of you who don't know, crypto exchanges are also accumulating Bitcoin. The misconception for some reason is that they're only holding it for people. No, they know where this market is going. They know how much money there is to be made. We've heard that before from a lot of other people in this space as well. We know that for those of you who are unaware, crypto exchanges are actively accumulating large amounts of Bitcoin for themselves, for their treasury. The goal is to own as much Bitcoin as possible. And before other countries jump onto the bandwagon, these crypto exchanges want to accumulate as much as they can so that they are richer than other countries. Did you hear that? Other countries are going to fall in line, as we've seen them doing so over the course of the last couple of years. Binance, Kraken, Gemini, Coinbase, these companies are going to be richer than countries. Michael Saylor, MicroStrategy, BlackRock is already richer than many. I mean, they're, $11 trillion gets you a long way. They are going to be richer than entire countries. They are going to be individuals who have a higher GDP than a lot of countries around the world. Over the course of those 13 days of accumulation, you know that other people were also accumulating, right? It wasn't just BlackRock. They took all the Bitcoin that was mined, all of it, over the course of 13 days. That news then transformed into the amount of Bitcoin that's actually now, at the time of me making this video, that's being held by all the institutions who are just into Bitcoin ETFs. Now, hear me out here. This is where it gets a little bit crazy. If there are 900 Bitcoin created per day, and in a couple months it's going to be 450, that goes down to 225. It continues dropping every single halving. And eventually the amount of Bitcoin that is coming out of the machine is dust. It's barely anything. But the demand remains the same. What happens to the price if demand remains the same, but the amount available continues to go down? Now, what happens if we get to a $70,000, $80,000 Bitcoin and all the supply is dried up, but the demand rises because people see that Bitcoin's price has gone up, that they need to pay their rent, that they could have made more money, that the amount of money that they could have put into the market could have bought them a house? People begin to buy. What happens when there's not a lot to buy? What happens when the buying pressure gets so strong that normal people buying pushes us over $100,000 per coin? Other people who are already in the market begin to buy more. The ETF prices begin to go up. These companies buy more Bitcoin. Bitcoin gets even rarer than it currently is. The price begins to go up. People who are in the market buy more. People who are outside of the market who said, wow, it passed by 100K, that's really cool for them, they start buying at 165,000 because they want to be part of it as well. They begin to realize I should have gotten at 40,000, but I was too proud and I didn't do so. The amount of Bitcoin, once again, keeping the number in mind, if you got 1.2, 1.4 million Bitcoin that's actually like on crypto exchanges, but maybe 50% of that is actually liquid, and you get to the 600,000 Bitcoin that's actually left for people. Since the Bitcoin ETFs have begun, these companies just who have spot Bitcoin ETFs have accumulated 95,000 Bitcoin. 95,000 Bitcoin. That is roughly 1/6 of the amount of liquid Bitcoin that's actually out there. How funny that as Bitcoin's price drops, these companies and institutions are buying as much Bitcoin as they possibly can. If this is over the course of a couple of days, imagine 10 days to accumulate nearly 100,000 Bitcoin. What happens if this accumulation continues? Just understand that's just these companies. This isn't you. This isn't MicroStrategy. This isn't wealthy people in Dubai, in New York, in Miami. This isn't institutional families. This is just these companies who have people interested in their ETFs. By the time we get to the end of March, they would have mathematically accumulated all the remaining Bitcoin that's actually liquid. Coinciding with the next couple of days, we get to April. What happens in April? It's the halving. The halving always moves up prices. Regardless if this is your first cycle, hello, welcome. It's going to get intense for you. That's why I said a bit of a tinfoil hat thing. Because I find it very interesting that you would assume with prices going down that the actual interest in the ETFs had also kind of waned a bit. I mean, people really aren't that interested. But the money's been flowing quite heavily. 95,000 Bitcoin, less than 10 days, just from these companies who are actually offering the ETFs. Imagine the other companies and countries we've been hearing about before. We know that there are a multitude of countries who are currently under U.S. sanctions who've been using Bitcoin for themselves to trade back and forth. Do you think they only own 4 Bitcoin and they went, guys, I think we have enough? Or do you think they've also been accumulating because we also know that they're mining it? We have Jack Dorsey. We have Novogratz. We have Cathie Wood. All these people who we hear about every now and again are also buying up more Bitcoin. Imagine the exact cumulative number besides the 95,000, which should all your head should be spinning right now. That they bought 1/6 of all the liquid Bitcoin that there is in less than 10 days. By the time we get to the middle of February, the end of February, they would or should logically have around 300,000 Bitcoin. We will, of course, be talking about it when all these events actually take place. But there's a lot going on. We are entering some type of a brand new world that I think people aren't prepared for. And I still try in vain. I send my friends articles. I have a couple of friends who are actually in the market, and I send them articles, and I can still gauge their interest by what I'm telling them. I have two friends. They go bananas when I tell them these numbers because they really get it. I have two other friends. They go, wow, those are numbers. I can't. Whoa, yeah, there are a lot of people who don't get it. Maybe they don't want to get it. I'm not really sure exactly what it is, but the amount of, also for those of you who don't know, these institutions are buying OTC. They're buying over the counter. It's not a complex theory or idea, but for some reason I've noticed that a lot of people don't understand over the counter. So it's literally that. Normally one would have to buy cryptocurrency through a cryptocurrency exchange. So what happens when you enter I want to buy $5 million worth of Bitcoin, it shows up on their screen. You must have seen like the green and red orders like going completely insane and people are buying. You've seen them before. You've definitely at some point seen them. When you buy over the counter, you don't touch the actual cryptocurrency exchange. So none of those metrics are actually produced. You would simply, in the simplest form, you would go directly to Coinbase and say, hey, we have $5 million that we're going to transfer from our bank account to your bank account. Bitcoin that you have in cold storage or somewhere else. Can you please hand it to us? Can you give us a ledger that has it's kind of this way. So it happens on chain. So we see the transaction of 5 million happening, but it doesn't ever hit the actual crypto exchange. So the amount of crypto on the crypto exchanges continues to dwindle. The amount of liquid Bitcoin that there is also very low as well. These institutions are buying and not touching the stuff that's actually on these exchange. You understand what's happening? It's really... Anyway, just thought I'd make a video so that everyone could be up to date with where we currently are. The accumulation is massive right now. And I just want to make sure that everyone's up to date. Because I personally, this is me, myself, it's impossible. It is literally impossible for me to go over daily cryptocurrency news and not put all the puzzle pieces together. They're buying up as much cryptocurrency as they possibly can. The amount of Bitcoin that we think that there is not there. I can't English today. So just understand that we have some pretty crazy times that are going to be coming up. I think the accumulation period right now is so significant while prices are dropping. It is literally mind-boggling how very few people are paying attention. But that's what the system is made for. It's made for people to not pay attention. You are meant to be discouraged and turn away from the market because Bitcoin didn't hit $57,000, $65,000, $70,000 instantaneously. You turn away and you go, well, it's at 41,000. The price is dropping. The demand isn't there. While they just bought up 95,000 Bitcoin and 71,000 Bitcoin continues to leave cryptocurrency exchanges every single month. All while this is the public news that we're getting. Imagine every other institution who we've been hearing from. They're also buying. There was also news, I don't have it here. Tether also just bought a huge amount of Bitcoin as well. Huge amount of Bitcoin. Massive amount of Bitcoin. You also still have the other players as well who are buying. Justin Sun is buying. Changpeng Zhao, well, what have you. Binance is also buying. You have all these people who are, you get the point. So yeah, a very interesting time to be alive, to see all of this stuff taking place. We are going in the future to be telling our kids and going to be telling people that we witnessed all these things. Very similar to, I remember meeting people and they were like, yeah, I got into Bitcoin when it was like $100. And I was like, what? Like, why didn't you buy all of it? We are going to live in a world in the future where you will be able to tell people, yeah, I remember seeing Bitcoin at 17,000. They're going to be like, per coin, and you didn't sell your home for it. Not financial advice. It's more me saying like what will be taking place in the future. Yeah, I'm exhausted. I do sincerely hope that you've all enjoyed, because it's gonna get really crazy out here. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.